Jeff Watcott at Bright Cove had talked about the importance of video on a page for search. Over at Fox News, like how many videos are on pages? Is it something that the editors choose, or you guys generate, or how does that work? And also, how do you contextualize the video, and where does it play on the page? Like it used to be back in the day, it was sort of like down at the bottom. But tell us a little bit about the placement of video.
I think that at the rate of monetization today, the honest answer was if we could put it at the top of every page and autoplay it and force people to listen to it, we would. But the challenge we have is user experience and editorial choice, right? So what we've done with a lot of the video is to say that I think that the premise of saying that how do you SEO optimize your content, especially when it comes to video, it's a little bit of a misnomer, right? So if we look at like, hey, what's out there for when you do true video searches, any of us that have our own destination sites as well as branded channels within YouTube, we struggle with one thing. The branded channel on YouTube tends to outperform what's going on your site. So we have to start to figure out as to say, okay, if we're protecting our destination, what are we doing? So a video player now isn't just a video player. It's something that you're teaching the editorial team that it's a feature image. So that when the page loads and it's contextual content, the first thing you're actually contextualizing is an image. So, hey, go pick a clip, but as part of that clip, go pick the greatest image you can find so you put it in the page. If you interact with that image, generally speaking, it's a video, so that the user can decide what they want to do. How many pages it exists in an increasing number. I think that what we toy with is where are people actually engaging. As much as at a lot of publisher sites you're seeing embedding of players inside of articles, that engagement is traditionally the lowest, right? The destination that people are still consuming video is still your video destination. So as you build that destination out, one of the challenges is to say that how do we make sure that a video page has an individual URL that it's SEO friendly, it's exposing a title and index correctly individually for a piece of video content as opposed to everything else. And then how do we wrap those pieces back together? The other point about the editorial thing is something we struggle with all the time, is that there is the truth that you could have a machine go and crawl through the content and find out what's contextually related in a 2-week period, 2-month, 2-year period. But what we've also seen as a struggle for that is that sometimes that machine is wrong. And I think that one of the things that we have to make sure that we're careful of is that when an editor is actively using a story, that they're the driving voice for it. It's not just trying to drive more video views or more engagement. We're trying to drive an editorial voice at that moment. And then, depending on the news story, that'll last 48 or 72 hours, and maybe at that point in time you're going to go override the decisions were made. Hey, a story happened, but it's evolved. So the content that you were relating initially, it's still there, but it's kind of static because you have a whole new set of content to go relate. Either suggest to the editorial team that they should do that, or in some cases just make that update for them.
Jeff, let's talk about the whole live scenario, and Vivian touched on it earlier on, and the whole second screen world. And I know that you're working with real-time data, which is another thing to sync up the second screen. So what are the opportunities with the so-called second screen and news, and what are you guys doing?
I think that what we're trying to do is try a lot of different things. I think that the two things that you notice about your second screen, I'll say second screen in two ways. One of the things that was said earlier is to say that some organizations are spending a lot of time to say, look at an app versus a browser experience, and responsive might not be there. We're actually thinking the opposite. The first place that we went to deep into responsive design was around video, right? Because the video page and the video experience should traverse these platforms. So using some of the newer mediums with HLS, adaptive bitrate, we're able to push that same content across the board, not only in clips but in live. What we're also seeing there is that the engagement for browser-based consumption in tablets is 3 times what it is in an app, right? So as much as we like apps and there's things to do there, we can learn a lot from the browser-based consumption we're seeing what people do there. For us, the next thing that's very compelling is that we're in the infancy with TV everywhere, but we're already seeing compelling metrics. You're already seeing engagement time for the users with the network of 40+ minutes. That's a good thing.
Jeff, could you explain, TV everywhere the way you guys have it? So you are, for your live show, for Fox News, for the regular show, is available on digital devices if you have a cable subscription.
Correct. Yep.
So how is that different than watching the show on TV then?
Well, screen size is the first thing.
Yeah.
I think that what you're saying is to say that in our category, our audience is generally a little bit different than most. A lot of our peers see a lot of sampling. We see a lot of folks that come and stay engaged with the program for a long time. So what the one thing is that, you know, if you look at the difference between our linear delivery of content and then what people are listening to in satellite radio, it's impressive, right? People like to listen to our product. So we're just giving them another medium to be able to watch this stuff anytime. I think that the way that the technology has advanced is allowing it to say, look, you're delivering a decent experience. So even if you're on a 3G network and it degrades gracefully, you're at least getting a quality audio stream of the programming they're looking for. I think the opportunities that it affords us is to say we have the opportunity to make television two-way. So I think that one of the things about second screen that we have to appreciate is there's the two very different things, right? The second screen may be the place that the user's going because they're bored with the first screen and they want to surf the web. Or we're saying that no, there's going to be interactive with the host of the program, and so how do we further that stuff so that you use a different device, a phone, a tablet, a desktop, so that they can push content and we can take it back to screen. I think for us, the transformative piece, or the piece that's in its infancy, is can you do that, right? Can you take in real time and take what the audience is saying and bring it back to the host so they make it part of their program? If you can, that's compelling. I mean, it's compelling for the content, it's compelling for the experiences you create around the content, but we'll see. I mean, doing that at scale is very hard. When you think about it in television world, you want to change something, you call graphics, they change the graphic and life is good. When you think about it in this world, is to say, hey, if we're going to process all sorts of social data and truly push it back to program in real time, what is real time? Because 2 minutes of delay actually matters in that situation.
And you mentioned, we talked about this, that you guys are, and you mentioned earlier you're working with RAMP on the real time thing. How is that different than sort of the metadata around video on demand?
Because in the video on demand experience is what we're going to do in that situation is we publish content, the content hits the web. What we then do is then we're doing a batch process through RAMP to say, hey, let's extract all of the data from it. And when it becomes available, we insert it back into the page. But the content is already available. So, you know, the lag time can be, depending on the day, size of clip, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, whatever. For the internet usage, it doesn't really make a difference. But if you're trying to extract this stuff in real time and create a timeline as you go, it's difficult because, you know, RAMP has some great tools where you can say, hey, timeline of the video, but that's not necessarily available in real time. So as we look at that stuff, again, we look at it as to say, we'll index as much data as humanly possible, and we'll keep it available. And we'll keep it available for uses that we have today and uses we may have in the future. But what we've been playing with most recently is how do you take the real-time linear feed, push it to the cloud, and truly say, I'm going to extract value-added points out of this content in real time. So I'm watching a primetime programming, the host is talking about these things, but in real time, I need to know that the topics are there, so here's the news pieces, give it back, because if it's not real time, the host has already moved on to the next segment, it's just not a good user experience.